Everybody, welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Mina and I and all of the panelists are super excited to be kicking off this Building Bridges series of the Global Connections Committee. The first kickoff event that we have today is connecting newcomers to Europe. And this is, although we have termed this, branded this as newcomers, it's not just for newcomers. So perhaps you're not in Europe already, but you're contemplating a move to Europe. Maybe you're already in Europe, you've been here for a couple of years like me, but you're still feeling a bit like a newcomer, right? So this is an umbrella for all of us here. And the reason we're doing this is because I think a lot of us academics, we move across a lot in our careers, and it is not always easy to find our feet in a new country, in a new culture. It takes time. And the nature of our work is also something where it does not always facilitate building those connections, right? So we teach in a classroom, we usually do research in front of a computer, and we may not always find the network, the people that we can talk to on an everyday basis to sort of answer those questions for us. So just based on my own personal experience, I started my career in India. Then I moved to Spain for my PhD. While I was doing my PhD, I moved to the US as a visiting scholar. Then I moved to Canada for my postdoc. And then I moved to France as an assistant professor. And every time it has been hard. It's been challenging. And I've been in France for 4 years now. And even today, like every day, I'm like learning about new things and new ways of doing things. So when Mina and I were sort of brainstorming about this and what would be the best way that we can help our international members, I think the first step that we thought of was how to create these platforms where maybe we can connect with each other better, find fellow academics in our cities or in other cities who work on same topics or different topics whom that we want to connect to, and even like creating resource pools that we can sort of borrow from when we need help professionally or personally. So in the spirit of that, welcome all of you again to our first chapter of the Building Bridges series. So what we have planned for you, we go to the next slide, which is structure. We have an amazing lineup of panelists who have very generously agreed to be here today and to answer questions, to sort of share their experiences. We have Sunny Lee from University College London. We have Barbara from University of Zurich. We have Constance from Stockholm School of Economics, Mauri Kira from University of Michigan, USA, and Mariella from University of Liverpool, UK. We also have 3 panelists who, unfortunately, could not join us today because of personal reasons, but that's okay. We still have a full house for you. So we'll start off with a panel discussion. So we'll go around the panel, and all of our panelists will give a brief introduction about their academic journey, where they are currently, and experiences, insights they want to share. So if you do have questions that you would like to ask any of our panelists, we would request that you post those questions in the chat. We will be keeping all the participants muted during this phase. So please post your questions in the chat, and also indicate if there is a specific panelist that you would like to direct this question to. And in the second half of the panel discussion, we'll collect the questions and we'll give it to the panelists to address. And post which, we have a 30-minute breakout session. So we have different breakout rooms which will focus on different topics. And we will do it as 2 parts, 15 minutes each. And each breakout room will be led by 1 or 2 of our panelists. And you'll have the opportunity as participants to self-select into any of those breakout rooms. And you can have discussions, ask specific questions, but also brainstorm about what are the future directions that you'd like to take with this. What other help would you like the GCC to offer, etc. And then after 15 minutes, you have the opportunity to move to a different breakout room if you so desire, so that you can have a different perspective, maybe answer questions about a different topic, etc. And then we will all meet again, sort of for a conclusion, to discuss next steps. So that's what we have today. Now, this is an experiment that we're trying out. So this is our first for the kickoff session. So we are counting on your inputs, your participation, but also on your ideas on how we can make this more effective going forward. All right. So without further ado, I'll be handing it over to our panelists to start off. And Barbara, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much to both of you for kicking this off and for initiating this. I think that also needs to be said at this point. Yeah, we have like 3 bullet points that we all will answer when we introduce ourselves in the panel. And the first one is about my current position and research area. I'm currently a postdoc at University of Zurich in the Institute of Psychology, and more specifically in the Work and Organizational Psychology group. And that also translates to my research area, which is on the one hand focused on work and stress. So I look at different work stressors on the micro and macro level, like overqualification and job insecurity, but also like work interruptions that you experience daily, or social conflicts and how they impact employees. And then I also look at the other side, namely how leaders can support employees in dealing with these things, and how specific types of leadership and interactions between leaders and employees impact leaders and employees' well-being and performance outcomes. So these, that's the research area I'm working in. In terms of my academic journey, you can't hear it now, but if I would speak German, you would definitely hear that I'm not Swiss. I'm from Germany, where I also studied my undergrad and master's degree in the south of Germany, near Stuttgart. And then I moved to Switzerland, Zurich, for my PhD. I actually did my PhD at the exact same desk I'm sitting now as a postdoc, so that was a bit of a déjà vu. And after completing my PhD here in Zurich, I left for the UK and worked for 2 years as a lecturer at Leeds University Business School. Leeds is, for everyone not familiar with the UK, people in Leeds always say it's the last big city before Scotland, so it's way up north. And I had a lecturer position there on a research and teaching contract for 2 years before I went back to Zurich for my current postdoc position. And that's where I'm currently in. Yeah, to give you a brief overview of the academic environment in Switzerland. So I think if you're familiar with either the German system or the system in Austria, we're quite like the German-speaking academic system is quite similar. We have typically, after you've completed your PhD, you spend up to around 6 years as a postdoc with either multiple different positions, or some are fortunate enough to stay at one place. And then after this prolonged postdoc time, which is, I think, a bit different to other countries, you apply to either junior professorships or more senior professorships. As it would translate to in the UK, associate or a full professors. So we have this relatively long postdoc position that is sometimes a bit difficult to understand what that actually is, because as I experienced, for example, in the UK, it's a bit different there. But that is how you typically proceed here in terms of career, which also means that during the whole of your postdoc time, you only have jobs kind of like they're not tenured. So you have a long period of non-tenured positions, and you only get job security when you make it to full professor. So this is a bit of a unique I would say, characteristic of the Swiss academic environment. And that also means there's the promotion from PhD to postdoc, then you're postdoc for a really long time. And then when you make it to full professorship, that's your final and oftentimes really the only promotion as it feels when you have then a permanent position. In terms of internationalization, it depends very much on the different areas or research areas where you are. Because we are here in the Department of Psychology, and for psychology, it's quite important that for a lot of subjects we also have kind of like every subject of psychology in our department, so also clinical psychology. It's not like that business school divide that you know from other countries. But that also means that a lot of teaching is done in German, and that's important if you think about clinical training that also happens here. So yeah, we're struggling on that front sometimes a bit. There's definitely some English-speaking colleagues here on all levels, and I think in terms of research personnel, we are quite open to that. But as soon as it's a position where also teaching is involved, doing it purely in English is more and more possible, but that is one of the things that makes it a bit different or a bit more difficult compared to other countries with coming to Switzerland without necessarily speaking the German language or the Italian language or French, because we are a country of 4 national languages. So, but you have options if you speak one of these. I think, yeah, that is my brief introduction, and then I would hand it over to the next person.
Maybe I can go next. So I'm Sunny Lee, Associate Professor of Organizational Behavior at University College London. So we have a small School of Management inside UCL. So my research explores how the hidden forces such as stereotypes, social or motivations or informal networks shape individuals' career outcomes. So quite micro psyche, but I also publish at managerial journals. So I'm originally from South Korea, but my academic journey has been primarily in London, United Kingdom, happily and proudly so. So after receiving my PhD from London Business School in 2014, I have been with the UCL School of Management for the past like 11 years. So I'm happy to answer more questions about our tenure system or internationality in academic communities in the UK. And actually, we have a guest in the attendees who might have better insights than me. But what I can tell you is that across institutions, so I read this research report because of my role on EDI, saying that actually both in terms of student body and faculty members, many UK higher education institutions are global. So this is something I think that applies to many institutions, many business schools across the country. But when it comes to a tenure system, promotion system, as far as I understand, there are 2 types of systems. So first of all, some institutions follow more traditional UK approach. That is the 3-year probation rule without a tenure system. Of course, this probation would be serious and coming with some standards. But some institutions, even in London, Queen Mary, I have some good friends there. After 3-year probation, actually, their job is permanently secured. But on the other hand, many UK institutions like UCL, LBS, or Cambridge Judge Business School, or Imperial Business School, and Warwick LSE, many actually more UK institutions have been starting to take a US tenure system where faculty are assessed and on a clear up tenured or out basis. So at UCL, we have a tenure clock of 7 years. So more flexible than other institutions such as Imperial or LBS. because we have a dual systems, probation and tenure, but we are changing it to be more up and out system, or sadly, to make all these things competitive and comparable to the US system. So that's what I can tell you as an introduction. Happy to answer more questions when the time comes around. Thank you.
And maybe I can go next if that's okay. So my name is Mari Kira. I'm located at University of Michigan at the moment, at university in the United States. So I'm kind of not quite sure which experience I should be talking about here, as our focus is on Europe. But I just really think this is such an amazing and wonderful initiative, and I really want to support this because having switched countries so often, I really have been experiencing a need for this type of a community. So my journey started way back and many decades ago already in Finland, where I was working at the Aalto University of Science, and I did my master's degree there. And after that, I worked as a satellite scholar for Aalto University in Germany, collecting data as a kind of a postgraduate research project. And then I moved to Sweden and went to a grad school there, or completed my PhD dissertation in Sweden at the Royal Institute of Technology. And eventually I moved to Germany, where I worked at University of Kassel for a couple of years. While still living in Germany, I started to work in Finland again as an Academy of Finland research fellow, and eventually then returned working back to Germany and worked at universities of Marburg and Gießen, working there as a lecturer and researcher. And all my career steps in Europe were either lecture positions, or I funded my own research via different kind of fellowships, scholarships that I applied in collaboration with the local scholars. So I have a lot of experience of kind of making your own career in Europe. And eventually I moved to United States about 9 years ago, and now I'm working here as an assistant professor. And my research focus is on well-being questions at work. So I'm looking at especially difficult life and work-related situations, and how we can still, in the context of those adversities, create well-being, and what that well-being actually even means when we're going through very difficult times in our lives. And I've been especially recently focusing on refugee populations, or people who have been diagnosed with a disabling illness. About the academic environment, so I'm very happy to talk about my experiences in all the European countries, Finland, Sweden, Germany, where I have worked. But maybe just a one contrast to United States. So what I really enjoyed working in Europe was, at least that during my time when I was still there, it was possible really make your own path in collaboration with local scholars in different countries. There were funding instruments that made it possible to work in different countries, and especially as an early career scholar. And but then the difference to United States, I would say that is that the system here is much more flexible. So in that sense, that how would I say? For instance, a tenure track, if they want to put you on a tenure track at the university, they really have a much of bandwidth and kind of a leeway to decide who they employ. In Europe, I always felt that going into the tenure track process, you need to have a certain kind of specific profile, and a little less kind of maybe flexibility in terms of who is selected on those kind of tenure track positions, taking you towards full professorship. So that's maybe the biggest difference I have noticed. But that's a little bit about me, and really happy to answer any questions I can share.
Wonderful, thank you, Mari. Mari, so I will be next, I think. My name is Constance, and so my current position is at Stockholm School of Economics. I've only been here for a year. I'm at the Department of Management and Organization. At the same time, I'm also a researcher at Stockholm University at the Department of Psychology. So my academic what I'm researching. So my topic has been for quite many years organizational justice, fairness perceptions at work, from perspectives of employees, managers, and entrepreneurs. So this also led me to studying entrepreneurs' work characteristics, work environment, and then generally issues of occupational health and well-being. And my academic journey started also in Germany. I studied at Heidelberg University, studied a psychology degree, and then I already worked as a research assistant at that time. And then I continued to do research assistantship at Surrey University in the UK before I started my PhD at Stockholm University at the Department of Psychology. And after that, I moved to the UK to Norwich Business School as a lecturer, and I was there for 3 years. And then I searched again for positions, and I went to Uppsala University, which is a university city just about an hour north of Stockholm, and I was there at the psychology department again. So I kind of switched between psychology departments and business school. So if you have any questions about this, I'm there to answer your questions, I think. And then so there I had like, it's a bit of a Swedish position, but it's somehow like a semi-permanent lecturer position with reduced teaching hours, which you can have for a number of years, and then you move to a permanent lecturer or senior lecturer position, which is permanent. And but then I decided to move again, and now I'm at a business school again at the Stockholm School of Economics. And I would say when it comes to the system or the tenure system or the career system, the business schools, at least my perspective, are more systematic or more similar almost, although they're different. I mean, different criteria, different years, and different rules, but also different journals that they want. But they're still pretty, in my perspective, is more consistent than psychology departments, which are often, at least in my view, for instance, the Swedish psychology departments, most teaching is still done in Swedish. Because, as Barbara said, we have similar arguments with clinical psychologists, so that's pretty similar, I would say. And to getting a permanent position in psychology is different than Barbara said. It's not as many years of postdoc, but that was pretty similar, I thought. The one thing that I would like to add, which Mari also touched upon, is the grants. So in Sweden, it's still the case that you can put together your own position if you have enough grant money from external grant or funders and research councils, etc. So that is also the way, if you want to reduce your teaching, for instance, in your position, you basically are encouraged to get grant money or grant funding. Yes, and other than that, I'm very curious about your questions. I see that there are lots of questions have popped up, so I will look at them now, and then to discuss and talk to you and get to know you a little better in the breaking room.
Muriella, would you like to go next?
Sure, of course. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you for having me on this panel. My name is Mariella Miraglia, and I'm a reader or associate professor at the University of Liverpool Management School. My background is in organizational psychology, occupational health psychology, and my main research interests at the moment are on health and well-being in organizations, especially working on absenteeism and presenteeism, but I also research a bit in the area of human resource management, specifically on HRM practices, performance management, and supervisory feedback. With relation to my academic journey, I earned my PhD in work psychology from a psychology department in Italy, from Sapienza University of Rome. That's also from where I'm from. Then I left for a postdoctoral fellowship at Concordia University in Montreal in Canada, where I stayed for about 2.5 years. And I think this was a very enriching and prolific experience, both professionally and personally, since especially it allowed me to continue work on my PhD topic, which was health, absenteeism, and presenteeism, publish in that area, and also gave me time, since I was not teaching as part of the postdoc position, it really gave me the time to focus on research, publication, learn new methods, and also grew my international experience and network. Then when, let's say, the time came to find a bit of a more structured job, my intention was to come back to Europe for various reasons, including if you want being closer to home, but also because at the time this was pre-Brexit. As an European citizen, you had the possibility of easily working in any country in the European Union. So that was the idea behind it. At the time, the UK job market was quite dynamic, and so I found a job as a lecturer, which is assistant professor at Norwich Business School, where I met Costanza, actually. This is the University of East Anglia. And if you're not familiar with the UK geography, it's the east part of the country. And after about 2 years, I decided to move to a larger city and larger university, which is the University of Liverpool, where I've now been here for 7 years. And I started as a lecturer, as an assistant professor as well here, but then I navigated, if you want, the promotion landscape. And then so I was promoted to senior lecturer and then reader. This is, I guess, a little different than the American system. One thing I wanted to say is that for me, at least, moving across different countries and different universities really gave me an opportunity to connect and to work with different colleagues and on multiple projects. And I'm still in touch with many of these colleagues, also working together as co-authors, and also usually gives the opportunity to make some lifetime friendships. With regard to the academic environment in the UK, Sunny already gave an excellent summary of this, but generally speaking, it is highly international. Faculty is international, as Sunny said, but also the student basis is, especially at the postgraduate level, including master's and PhD programs. Regarding the tenure promotion processes, it depends a little bit in which university you are in. In my experience, I always had the probation period, which varied between 3 and 5 years, and it's mainly based on research outputs. So I'm talking about publications in peer-reviewed journals and research funding. Also, it may be interesting to know that many universities, for you to pass probation, require to acquire a teaching certificate in order to be a fellow of the Higher Education Academy. Regarding promotions, usually universities have also clearly established criteria and committees, and often promotion plans are discussed with heads of departments or mentors that you may have in the university you are part of, in the department you're part of, and they provide support on these matters. So looking forward to answer any questions you may have on the UK system or the Italian system probably too. So thank you again.
On the chat, what are some of the common surprises or challenges that people face when arriving in the UK, Sweden, or Switzerland? Would anybody like to?
So for me, actually coming from an Asian country, also I lived 4 years in the States. So anyway, when I first came to the UK a while ago, 15 years ago, I was quite, I found it challenging that many services, such as opening on internet or finding which banks to use is very slow. So, but luckily, as far as I understand, for the past 10 years, so bureaucracy has been decreased and many things have become digital. So I think newcomers might find it less challenging, but I still hear from my colleagues or some friends outside academia that slow services can be something that bothered them in the beginning, but all of them later found out that things work, but at much slower pace.
Would you like to add it, Barbara?
Yeah, maybe I can take the Swiss part of the question, because when I moved to the UK, it was still the pandemic, and I'm not sure how generalizable that is. But I think in Switzerland, there's kind of like the stereotype or cliche that it's difficult to get to know people, and that Swiss, because it's a small country, so everyone stays friends with their friends from school, and they have a really tight friends group, everyone, and which they're friends with for a long time, and then you arrive. So that is one of the things that a lot of people repeat, that it takes a while to get to know people. I think certainly having a community at the university where a lot of people moved around a lot helps. But I think integrating into kind of like broader social life in Switzerland was for a lot of people surprising. If you speak one of the languages, it's definitely easier. If you have kids, that helps very much, because they make friends quite quickly in kindergarten. And then joining clubs, any kind of social clubs. I went to a choir. That was really the thing that helped me making friends with Swiss people. So that was one of the surprising things.
We have another question. How do you arrange moving with your family, partners, or children? So I think a lot of people who are moving either have trailing partners or children. So would anybody like to share their experience in moving with family?
Thank you. I wasn't able to unmute myself. Yeah, so that's a really, really, really good question. I must say that it's a very challenging one, according to my experience. And early on in my career, me and my husband, or let's say I made the decision that I prioritize his career, because he's also in academia, and the dual career situation, like when we started to travel the world in the 1990s, was not very supported. But I must say that with the European flexibility, especially my early career for building my own positions with the grant funding, has been really supportive. And moving to United States, the dual career situation was taken much more seriously. I would say they have much more programmatic approach here, and I received a lot of support to, first of all, to integrate to the university world, and then actually through that be able to proceed to tenure track. So I would have, during the time when I was in Europe, hoped for a little bit more structured dual career programs and initiatives from universities, because it was very much when you are on your own and trying to figure things out. And very often the jobs for both parties don't kind of necessarily coincide. And yeah, so it was challenging. We don't have kids, so I would say that like children probably really make settling in a new country a whole lot of new experience and build those connections. But on the other hand, it was very easy for us to move when we didn't have to think about schools or continued schooling for kids. And yeah, that's my experience, and I must say that I would have wanted more support in European universities for dual career.
Yeah, I can also add to that, because I've also moved with my spouse, and my husband was working in the US when we moved. I'm sorry, I removed the spotlight. And then he continued working remotely for the previous job, and then had to find a remote job because neither of us were Francophone regions speak French. So there are challenges to it, but I think especially now with a lot of jobs becoming more remote based, I think there's more opportunity for that. So just wanted to add my 2 cents to it. Mari, we have another question for you. So we wanted, I mean, there's a question, can you expand more on what you meant by self-funded research? So you mentioned that when you were giving your introduction. So yeah, so how does a self-funded research work? And how do you get a position? How do you get that fund? What has been your experience with it?
So it has been always different instruments in different countries. So, for instance, my first position, or I would say job at University of Kassel in Germany was funded by the European Commission Marie Curie funding instrument, which is still around, and that was really nice because it really is meant for scholars who are moving into a new country. Like I was switching from my graduate program from in Sweden to Germany as a kind of a postdoc position. So it's a very good postdoc funding and allows kind of support when you just are moving from one country to another within European Union. And when I then decided that I really missed working in Finland because work science and organizational science is very delightful business in Finland. There is a lot of collaboration between different stakeholders, and I wanted to return to that. And living in Germany, I was thinking, well, how can I do that? And I applied for, actually in collaboration with a local professor, to Academy of Finland research fellowship. They also have in Academy of Finland has also a kind of a postdoctoral research position or kind of research funding, and the doctoral funding from Academy of Finland is 3 years, and the kind of the fellowship is 5 years. And I was successful in securing that Academy of Finland fellowship for 5 years, and that funding basically paid for my salary and paid for my research group. Didn't allow me to teach, which was this was really purely a research position. But what I wrote every time I wrote the research plans and the proposals myself, built a network in the local country where I wanted to go, and their recommendation, their support for my application was always needed. I think that's probably like a European Commission level instruments, and then like seeing what is available in different countries. Is one way to build this kind of a self-funded research career.
Just to follow up on that, and please, anyone else also would like to share your experience about funding. Do you have to be a national of the country that you're applying to, or are there funding available for residents, if you're a resident, etc.? So would anybody like to share more about that?
Yeah, so I can do this. Yeah, I'm not a Swedish citizen. I'm a German citizen though. So I have been living here for, I don't know, 10 years in total with interruptions, but I'm German, and that's no problem because I'm a European. I have a European passport, so you can apply to, I think basically all of the research fundings are available for it's just that you need the affiliation of the Swedish university, and that's usually easily done. So there are a lot of different research funding opportunities in Sweden. It depends a bit, but most of them are at the beginning of the year, and maybe between January and March, and then you wait for half a year, and then you get most commonly you get a reject, but so it's very competitive. But then when you get the funding, it's for between 3 to 5 years, depending on the call, and you basically budget yourself you budget for your time for yourself. And that salary is basically dependent on which university you are at, because they have normal levels of where you what you get as a researcher, for instance, at a different university. And so everyone is really happy to have research funding, every university. So It's just if you know someone, it's always good to know someone. Of the academic community in the Nordics is quite small, so like psychologists or OB scholars in Finland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, we kind of know someone who knows someone who knows someone, so it's quite small, and there are lots of opportunities for research funding. It's a little bit of a chance game, but there are also specific calls for specific research calls for specific topics, for instance, that they want, and they can sometimes be more practical oriented. Yeah, and then you usually apply for yourself for your position, but maybe also research assistant or researcher or research team or like data collection efforts. So we still collect a lot of our own data. And yeah, I think, and I came up with a reply to the question what people are surprised by when they go to Sweden. I think one is it's either dark or light. So either you have a lot of sun or you have a lot of darkness. So it's a binary weather option. And the other one is that everyone can speak Swedish and everyone can speak English, but a lot of people prefer to speak Swedish. So if you really want to get into the society, you kind of need to speak. In Sweden, you need to speak Swedish, I would say. At least try. And then the other thing that the people are surprised about are that we do take vacations. I mean, we have 30 days of vacation and everyone takes them. And it increases over time. With your age, you get more number of more days of vacation. And so basically after midsummer, which is at the end of June, till mid or end of August, no one is around, at least in universities. So that's why you likely will not get a reply. And your out of office reply can be, I'm back in 2 months. That's not unusual. So I think that is probably a surprise. And yes, we can take sick days or we can take parental leave or and we still publish. Maybe not as crazy as Americans, but yes, I think it's a good life.
Thank you. Just linked to that, just a question about without the tenure track, how do you cope with the lack of security? So I think it's slightly different from the American system.
I think
I can. Barbara, do you want to go on?
I just wanted to say you use the strategy of not thinking about it too much, but yeah, I mean, as someone who worked in the UK and here, definitely the benefit of the UK with my position, for example, was that I had job security. I almost finished my probation. The only thing that is was basically a benefit here in Zurich is that I, as a postdoc, even if I have to do teaching, I only teach one seminar, which is 30 people once a year. And every other added teaching is voluntary and I get additionally paid for. And that's something that is similar to, it might mean a bit more or a bit less, but that's similar to a lot of postdocs. So you have the benefit of having more time for your research, which helps you get to a more secure position maybe a bit quicker. But on the other hand, you have that the fact that you're not tenured for probably up to 6 years. So I think that is a dilemma, and it is personal preference which you prefer, and also sometimes how close you want to be to your family. But Mariella, maybe you want to add your perspective also.
No, I was going to say something very similar to what you just said, Barbara, but my perspective is a bit different because from Europe I moved to North America mainly to do a postdoc. And generally, it depends a lot on how you are sponsoring mainly or who is sponsoring your postdoc, right? But generally, you do have access to sick leave or holidays, vacation days. It depends, I believe, also, probably as you said before, though, Barbara, the German system is a little different, that you are in postdoc positions for a longer time before being promoted to full professorship, right? I think it also depends on the country where you are in, because, for example, in Italy or the UK, you're in a postdoc position maybe at the beginning of your career, but then ideally you shift towards a more structured, let's say, position. So typically a lectureship or assistant professorships. So I would consider it like something temporary, probably, at least in the UK, which cannot be sustained for a very long period of time. Something that helps you probably to, publish, maybe know the context if you're new in the country, and then look for different types of jobs.
And maybe to add, because I've been only airing the bad side of the Swiss system, the pay is very good. And in general, how much funding we have available as kind of like stable funding on university level. So there is money around that doesn't come from additional outside funding, and that also helps and is one of the draws of the system here. So yeah, if you kind of from a different country doing a 2-year postdoc here, can be really beneficial. But because it takes you a longer time to make it to a full position, to a tenured position, then it's maybe not the main goal. And a lot of people leave after a few years of postdoc and go back to either their home countries or different countries.
We have one final question, Mina.
Okay. Yeah, we actually have quite a few, but we only have time to talk about one more that already there's some discussion in the chat about it. Sunny has maybe Sunny, you can start off by saying, for instance, in the UK, and Mariella can speak to that as well, and any one of you with experience in the UK, requirements for publications and tenure. And then maybe we can briefly touch upon other places and differences with other places, perhaps. Sunny, do you want to start off with that just to make
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Mina. So yeah, just to save time, I typed a lot of things in the chat, but just to summarize, so I think in the UK there are 2 types of schools, but for the schools following the US system, the standards are pretty much the same, such that research just matters a lot. And then I'm not a big fan of categorizing 4-star whatsoever, but actually that's the rule of the game here at UCL or LBS, Imperial Warwick Judge Business School. So I think the top publications matter the most in their tenure system, and slightly lesser number of letters, but still 6 to 8. Whereas other schools following the UK more probation system, I have a good friends there as well. And I'm not saying that their standards are not rigorous. They have a rigorous standards, but it seems like they care more about the themes or the topics, relevance of the topics more. And then they are more like flexible about the type of outlets these papers are going out. And for the funding, actually, it's true that, as some other panelists said already, so it's true that I think many researchers in the OB field, we are getting some pressure for external funding. But good news is that many schools in the UK, they still recruit junior faculty members, even though they don't have their own funding. But it's true that if you have your own grant, actually, it makes it easier to get a job. It's true, but there are certain schools in the UK, and as far as I know, in or France as well, where you can get a job without having a grant ready with your site. So that's what I can tell you. Yeah, I will keep writing more to spread information.
And maybe I can add a little bit to this for the UK context, for those universities who have a sort of probation system. I'm not sure if you're not in the UK, if you're familiar with the REF system, which is the Research Excellence Framework, and mainly it's a way to for the government, if you want to evaluate research, right, based on different criteria, but mainly on the significance, originality, and rigor of research outputs that the university and their academics produce. So often probation is passed if you publish a certain amount of peer-reviewed journal articles which are considered by a panel to be significant, original, and rigorous. And often this is highly correlated, as you can imagine, with 4-star journals or FT50 journals. So it's quite, in the end, where you publish matters and what you publish as well. So yeah, this is just what I wanted to add.
Could I say one more thing? I would say in Sweden, to get a permanent position or a lecturer position, or even being offered one before even the tenure starts, I would say that teaching matters a lot. Maybe more so than in other countries, but it's also when people look at or your committee looks at your publications, they also check, okay, which topics can this person teach? Because universities offer, our business schools and psychology departments, they offer certain courses that they need to offer or want to offer, and maybe they lack a certain experience or a certain method knowledge. So you will also be hired or for your possibility to be able to teach certain subjects, for instance, and then you will be promoted, yes, publications as well, but also the teaching, because if you're a terrible teacher and a terrible colleague, they will probably try to find reasons for not hiring you permanently, because it's in Swedish labor law, it's very, very difficult to get rid of people. So, so the decision to make someone permanent is not just based on the research output; it's also based on or a large extent also based on your teaching quality and the teaching topics that you can offer.
Thank you, Constance. Thank you, everybody. So we've had a lot of questions. We're going to move into the breakout rooms now. So if you do have specific questions about any specific topics, you can join any of these breakout rooms. So we have 3 rooms planned right now. So living and connecting within the UK or France. So for anyone who is planning to move or who are currently living, who are looking forward more connections within, so it'll be Sunny and me in the breakout room, and then we have cross-border collaboration and connections with Barbara and Mari, and then we have navigating the European job market. So we're going to introduce the breakout room. So you have 10 minutes, the first round. And then if you want to continue in the same breakout room, you can just stay put. Or if you want to join a different breakout room after 10 minutes, you can choose a different breakout room.
Hello, everybody. Back again. I would like to start by inviting our facilitators to share a quick summary of the discussions in the rooms. Maybe we start with Guri and Sunny. Guri, okay, no, 1 second. You're muted, Guri. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for the first half, we didn't have any participants, so we were happy sort of chatting away. In the second half, we did have a few participants who are more curious about the job market in the UK, comparison of the salaries in the UK or broadly in Europe vis-a-vis the US. So we try to address that. Also the availability for teaching in executive education. So we quickly try to address those questions, but if there are more questions about the UK job market, you can write to us. Feel free to write to me or Mina, and we'll be happy to pass it on to the panelists, or you can also write to the panelists if you have more questions about that. So those were the main questions that came up.
All right, thanks. And actually, we forgot to say that the panelists that couldn't join us today, actually, they invited the same thing. So if you're interested specifically in Germany or the Netherlands or Finland as a place potentially to look for job opportunities or research collaborations with those places or anything else, you're welcome to contact our panelists that were not able to join us today, or ask us to connect you with them. So yeah, just wanted to add that. Thanks a lot, Guri. So then perhaps we can move on to room 2 that was about cross-border collaboration and connection. Barbara and Mari, would you like to summarize that for us?
Yeah, so Barbara, please join in as well. But yeah, I think we just talked about different ways of networking through your advisors, through building connections yourself. We recognize that there are some more formal kind of matchmaking opportunities on the European level, and through also our professional associations. And one thing actually that was a question that was burning on everybody's mind was whether there will be some Europe focused networking sessions, opportunities to connect with European scholars at the upcoming Academy of Management meeting in Copenhagen.
Great question, and I'll let you know in a second. There will be, yeah, and I'll say a little bit about that in a second. But then, should we hear from Barbara? I don't know if you had something to add, or we can move to the third group, navigating the European job market. Mariela and Constance.
I can start, Constance, and then feel free to add and jump in. We had two short discussions. The first one was mainly around expectations for more experienced candidates. So how to navigate the job market when you are not at the start of your career in academia. We talked about also salaries, lifestyle, career development, interview process. And then in the second breakout room, we talked mainly about the differences across European countries in their job markets, and also how to reapproach, if you want, academia. Constance, anything else?
Maybe if just one tip basically is to go to departmental meetings, or make a presentation to a specific department where you're interested in, or maybe do several different make a tour basically of different departments and giving a presentation that helps to connect also. And then yes, one thing, we have a PDW. I think Minna is going to talk about this in a second as well. We have a PDW on how to find a job in Europe at the EAM.
Yeah, and actually that was not on my list of, I should have added that for sure, no,
Yeah, we have this.
but I did want to say a word about, so the OP division probably does not need an introduction, but we are the largest division of the Academy of Management, over 6,000 members, and we prioritize rigor, relevance, and relationships. So I think if you have ideas about events or anything, it doesn't have to be events, any kind of initiative that is about rigor, relevance, or relationships and kind of meets the division's objectives, please feel free to reach out to us, and we may find a way to support it. The global committee of the OB division specifically is dedicated to internationalizing in a way the efforts of the division of the academy, and leveraging the global character of the division. So we intend, our hope is to have this event being one first of many. So we will focus our efforts now in Europe, because this is also the second largest kind of contingent in terms of regions after North America, with OB scholars, members of the OB division. Our next efforts may further into Asia, but when it comes to Europe, we do intend to have similar events in the future where we can connect and gain insights from each other, exchange ideas, and build community in Europe. At the Academy of Management here, I've highlighted for some reason just the social events. I probably should have highlighted some of the programming that we have that actually is relevant to questions around scholarship, international collaborations, and finding jobs, for instance, in Europe. The global committee offers such PDWs regularly, and they are easily identifiable on the program. But I'm happy to follow up by email with the specific events that we can recommend. And here are some of the more social events at the Academy where we can meet each other again. And specifically, I want to highlight here the one in the middle, 25175. I don't know the time and place yet. That is to be confirmed, but that's the code number that you can look up in the program. That's the OB Divisions Making Connections micro community coffee hours, where we do plan this year. There is a slot dedicated specifically to this pan-European initiative for OB scholars in Europe, where we can get a coffee and chat. So I encourage you to look out for that, and of course specifically for programming around finding jobs and international collaborations as well, if that's something that interests you. Guri, is there something that I forgot to say?
No, just that we are planning to hold more future events that would probably be on a different theme. So we will be sending out a feedback survey, so you can access that feedback survey through this QR code. Please leave your comments and ideas, and if you think that we can organize our future events on specific themes that you think will be relevant. It could be based on geographies. Maybe you're interested in doing specific geographies, and maybe that's something we can explore. Or based on your career stage, maybe for early faculty or mid-career faculty, etc. So I think there are different needs. So please, we rely on your feedback to keep this going and to organize more events in the future.
Yeah, most of you who registered for today's event were happy to be contacted by email, so we will take this opportunity to follow up. But in the meantime, I'd like to thank all of you for showing up today and for participating, and especially our panelists for sharing their insights with all of us. And thank you, and have a wonderful afternoon, I guess, for most of us, maybe not all. Have a wonderful day, and then hope to see you soon.